He's caught over 800 10-pound-plus largemouth bass, holder of 13 worldwide patents, and inventor of the weedless trolling motor prop. Doug Hannon is the Bass Professor.
When it comes to seasons, I generally break my year down into 5 seasons. That's not simply because I get more. It's because, that's really the way it is. The fish don't follow a calendar, and they do wear white after Labor Day, trust me. But anyway, the seasons of the year, the reason I break them into 5 is because I consider the spring, when fish are reproducing, a double season. But it's also what we call a transitional season. By that I mean things are changing. Fish are moving from winter quarters through the spring to summer quarters. And fall is a season when they're moving from the stable conditions of summer on to winter, which is another stable season when things settle down. So the transitional seasons find fish on the move. The difference between fall and spring is in the spring the fish are in. That's the key word. They're up in coves, they're up creeks, they're back in the quiet areas where they can spawn and where the water's warming up the fastest. In the fall, the fish are moving out. They're moving out of the shallow areas to deep quarters because remember that water over the head of the fish when a cold front comes through, which they frequently do in the winter, causes a lot of insulation to occur, and the temperatures in the depths are much more stable. And fish don't like change. We're going to talk about fish not liking change a lot, and in a lot of ways. Stability becomes predictability, makes for good hunting. You don't like to go out and hunt in the woods and sit in your blind when a cold front's coming through and the wind's howling and it's going to shift from south to north. You like a stable condition, and the way they get stability in the winter is to move deep. So they move out, and they always move out in contact with things because everything else is moving out as well. So they tend to use points. So while you got coves in the spring, the opposite is true in the fall, and I consider a point actually the opposite of a cove. It's an outcropping of the bank leading to deep water, and the longest points that are attached to the biggest summer flats. By flats I mean those big shallow areas where fish feed on. The very end of those things are where fish move to in the fall, and they don't just move there by just progressing out the things. They actually follow the bait fish. So there's areas of cover, different types of cover. You might have in a lake a weed line up shallow. They'll move to the tip of the weed line. Then there might be stumps and trees that move all the way out to the deep point where you end up on the main river channel. They'd follow those trees and stumps, and then they'd stop at the tip of those, and then they'd go in the extremes of winter to the steep sheer banks, and where they can move literally up and down and cover all the water in the column. They don't like to move lateral to feed, and they don't need to feed there as much in the winter, so they can afford to go out on those deep breaks and hang and wait for days and days and eat small morsels. Fish vertical type lures, deep lures in the winter, and get right on the closest sheer points to those summer quarters, and that's where you'll find your biggest fish, winter in, winter out. If you've enjoyed today's edition as much as I have being here for you, then don't forget, click on that button and send this to a friend.